and we're hanging out on a Thursday where it's snowing again. It has snowed every day except for one in the last 2 weeks. Maybe that's Pat Hammer tweeted out a little bit ago. Every day except one for the last 2 weeks, and that one might not have had measurable precipitation, but it might have actually still had some. Anyway, it snows all the time now. We live in Antarctica. I've accepted that at this point until further notice. So, yeah, more snow. Drive safely, drive slow. The roads, where I live in the city have not been plowed. I don't know the last time they have been. It's an ongoing inside joke, I think, living around this area is wondering, are there plows? Do they presumably go other places? I'm sure they're doing a fine job. I haven't seen one. Anyway, good morning. And today is Joe Brady's introductory press conference. That'll be noon here on WGR. We will carry that. So you hear from Joe Brady. I've not exactly seen who will be at the presser, if it will be Brady and Brandon Beane or Brady and Terry Pagula or all three. So maybe later today when the assorted media starts to gather at One Bills Drive, we'll see a picture of the podium, how many microphones there are. I would think Beane and Brady would be it. Beane kind of makes the call here, I think. That's what we're going to hear. Collaborative, input from all sources. But I believe the structure of the new Buffalo Bills, or the new structure of the Buffalo Bills, would be that Beane makes the call, who gets the job. So we should probably hear from the two of them. They will represent the relationship between coaching and player personnel that is said to have been important to Brady getting the job. So I'd imagine, just my guess, if we're turning into a fantasy league and we're drafting people that will be at the podium, those would be the two picks, and I probably wouldn't have anybody else on my board. So that's at noon today. At 7, we'll check in with Sal. The latest in the Bills' search for a defensive coordinator that is ongoing. Bobby Babich has stepped away to Green Bay to coach their secondary. So the Bills have an opening at defensive coordinator. That's something happening. We'll talk with Sal at 7. At 8, Joe Marino, the Locked On Bills podcast, moved him from yesterday. We'll get to him to talk about ideas at defensive coordinator. He's had some opinions on Jim Leonard. There's Jim Schwartz out there who may be available as well. So some options. Raheem Morris, I saw his name floated as well. And we'll talk to Joe Marino about that coming up at 8 o'clock. We'll mix in some Sabres along the way. They're home tonight for the Kings. It's a good time. It's a busy time. And, of course, we'll talk with you at 803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. One thing I'm wondering about today at One Bills Drive should be different than last week. Last week on Wednesday, generally thought to be not the best press conference, when the best thing you could say about it was it'll fade away and people won't remember it. That's probably not a good one. They stepped in it a couple times on a couple things. I would imagine today is much different as they chart the path forward. And I guess one of the ways we could talk about this morning, if you want to jump in with me right away, is to say, what do you want to hear today? And they're going to tell you what? They're going to tell you how they arrived at Joe Brady. Brady's going to talk about the honor of being the coach, next steps from here, the continuity of him staying, and there'll be good things to say about that. The thing I find myself wondering is whether or not Brandon Beane will look at this offseason and this change as an opportunity to kind of not start a new build, but a reset of the counter. I asked Joe yesterday, kind of asked you guys out there yesterday, is this Joe Brady when they go to the playoffs? Is this his first playoff outcome, or is it his fourth playoff outcome? That's kind of, I think, up for debate. He's been here already before. So is it time to view this as a new era, or just an off-ramp to a different part of this same era? And the reason I ask that is, what kind of offseason should Brandon Beane be looking for? Is it another modest free agent signings to plug a couple holes and use all of your draft picks? We went to last year thinking they would not use all their draft picks, that they would be up and down the board, all over the place. And I believe they went in with 10. And when we would talk about it going into the draft, we'd say stuff like, well, what are they going to do? Use 7 of these picks? And they moved up and around, and they ultimately take 7 players. In this year's draft, should it be, again, about – I almost want to call it an eat your vegetables kind of offseason where you just do the things that are afforded to you. Here are your free draft picks. You can have all these, maybe ones you traded for. And after that, before that, you've got free agency. The cap goes up. You make your moves to get some guys on lower numbers. You cut, you restructure, you extend. And with that, now you have $35 million of cap space to use. Go out and sign Trey Hendrickson, who's the number one free agent in the market, more than likely. Like, should it be that kind of offseason where it's clear you are thinking you're close, so you're going to try to get over the line? And this has always been something that maybe through the years Bean has been aggressive and then passive. Last year feels like a very passive offseason. The year they signed Von Miller is a very aggressive offseason. The year they trade for Stephon Diggs feels like a more aggressive offseason. So which would you prefer? And how will he approach this upcoming year? As an aggressive offseason or as a passive offseason? Because as we're sitting here looking like the Bills are going to bring back the same offense with some tweaks, do they want to get 3 new people in there and just do it through the draft? Or is it more about making a guard that's on the market a really solid signing to replace David Edwards if you feel like you have to do that? Or, of course, bring back David Edwards himself. So I think, of course, it's time to be very aggressive. It's time to seek out great players, another great player. This was the offseason last year. This was the goal last year. And I thought they took decent shots at it. I thought Bosa was a nice move. And it gave you about what you should have expected, in my opinion. And the draft picks, they kind of stayed where they were, took the positions they thought they needed, maybe neglected one. But the offseason last year made sense with one exception. It was, let's restock on defense. And this year I feel like if you're falling in line with they have a great roster, right? Terry Pegula up there, good coaching, great roster. If you have a great roster, then I think you should be going further in. And whether you want to use the metaphor of pushing chips to the table, to the center of the table, or what it is, I think you should, of course, be hunting Trey Hendrickson. You should be hunting, I'm not sure you can actually afford all these players. Your cap is tight, but if you have room and you move people around, you can just push money into the future. We know that, of course. Do you gun for Trey Hendrickson? Hey, come on here. Here's a chance to win, and here's $80 million. Maybe. If Terry Pegula is willing to pull the cord on Sean McDermott and say, this isn't good enough, we've got to win, you can't give the coach the mandate Super Bowl or failure. Not directly, I don't think. It can be implied, like we might all imply that that's what they've got to do. But you can, of course, look at your GM and say, like, all right, you've got a great roster. You don't need that much else, so let's go out and get something big. Let's get another big difference maker. And we can, of course, debate what position that should be. So 803-0550, Hendrickson, to me, he's the obvious free agent name. He's been waiting to get out of Cincinnati for a while. He's been provably great for multiple seasons. He's been provably great on a defense where he's the only piece of the defense that's good. So maybe in another defense, wherever he goes, if it's Buffalo, if it's, you pick, if there are other good pieces, he might flourish even more. And I would anticipate, just like we did with Myles Garrett last year, and just like we will do this year with Max Crosby, who's likely to ask for a trade, right? We're right back where we are, talking big money defensive end, somebody to come in and make a difference. And we'll see what Bean says about their offseason today, hopefully, if he's there, and how aggressive he might be, what kind of expectations he's going to give about the cap. Although sometimes he says we won't have money and then goes out and signs Von Miller. So, you never know. So 803-0550, what kind of offseason do you think it should be? I, of course, think if now that they've put their money where their mouth is and you fire a coach because what you're getting is not enough, then you should go further in, get even better. You think you're a Super Bowl caliber roster, that means, to me, you don't need to add 10 pieces. That means, to me, you need to add like 2. 2 of real significance and fill in the bottom with your solid depth pieces around the roster. 803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550 if you want to join us.